How's it, everyone? This is Lolcohol. Today's video I'm going to be going over an update to the Flicker Strike Invoker, which is slowly transforming into just an Ice Strike Invoker. This build still performing super well, and I wanted to wait until the major patch, which we just got last night, to make sure that nothing too great was going to change before making this update video. Let's talk about some of the scaling changes, and like everyone, we've decided to go for Hands of Wisdom and Action. You'll hear people saying HoWA. That's what HoWA is. These gloves, these allow us to scale our attack speed and get a lot of lightning damage by scaling our dexterity and intelligence. HoWA. So yeah, everyone is using these because there are a limited number of ways to scale damage in PoE 2 currently. These should be renamed to HoWA. This the only way to scale attack. Sorry, attack damage in PoE 2. So lame. But yeah, so by scaling dexterity and intelligence, we're getting a lot of damage out of these gloves. On top of that, we're just getting that dexterity and intelligence from mainly our rings of the gear slots. So if you can get a nice breach ring like this has dexterity, intelligence, and all elemental resistances. So on our other ring, same thing, dexterity, intelligence, all elemental resistances. And then, of course, once again, like everyone else, we're using Ingenuity. So Ingenuity, this belt, fairly expensive, but increased bonuses gained from your rings. So if we have rings with a decent amount of dexterity and intelligence, well, there we are getting our further increased damage for our Hands of Wisdom in action. So I'm sitting at 284 dexterity, 323 intelligence, which equates to, I think, a bit over 30% attack speed. And you can see build doing pretty good. This is a Zesh 4. Yay, we did it. So that's how the build is performing now, currently. HoWA, one thing about these gloves is that they may stretch your resistances and make it quite hard to fit in and still fit these in and still get resistance cap. So you might have to swap a few pieces of gear around. If you do decide to go for Ingenuity, just make sure that your rings have some kind of resistance on them to help compensate for the loss of resistances that you may have had on your gloves. Also, Amulet. I previously had this Amulet, which was just giving me rarity, crit chance, and a whole lot of energy shield. However, now that we know that rarity has been completely overblown, I'm still sitting at 100% increased rarity, and I decided to instead opt for fire resistance and cold resistance to allow me to fit in this Ingenuity. So not a whole lot of major gear changes, but going for this Hands of Wisdom in action and then just building everything around this really helps. A lot of people I've heard say aim for about 200 dexterity, put the rest into intelligence. That is the best way to scale your damage. So the tree, all of these travel nodes for me at least are intelligence, intelligence, intelligence. However, I still have 284 dexterity. As for the rest of the tree, it's all the same. However, you just saw me do a boss. The one thing I am changing for the boss is just going for Unbound Avatar instead of and protects me from harm. So if you do a boss, just swap these 2 points around. As for the Lingering Illusion Minion Pact tech that people like Summay were using to generate charges on bosses without having to freeze them, this has sadly been removed from the game. No longer works. I tested it. It's gone. So if you do a boss, only thing you really need to swap out is Mana Remnants instead of your Wind Dancer. This will grant Remnants, which you can use to regain mana against bosses if you feel that you're running out of mana. This is one solution for that. But no longer have to worry about the Lingering Illusion setup. This was a bit of a pain to use, so in a way I'm weirdly glad it's gone, but it does mean that you need to ramp when you're doing your bosses instead of just starting the fight at max power. One other small change is that we are using in our Flicker Strike, we're using Heavy Swing instead of Heft. So this, just compare the damage between your Heavy Swing and Heft, but the rest of the build fairly similar. This is a much more expensive version of the build. Hands of Wisdom and Action, they are dropping in price, but the thing is that you need to build around these. So you'll need to get a new Breach Ring. Just remember to apply qualities to this. If you want to go with Ingenuity, this is also fairly expensive. This is all over on Mobalytics, this guide, and also I will link the previous versions of the build in the description below in case you missed it. But this takes you through the leveling setup, then like the budget version with no Chaos Inoculation. Here's the Chaos Inoculation version, into the Herald Explosion version, and now I've included the Hands of Wisdom in Action version, which is the more expensive version. Now with Hands of Wisdom in Action, because we're using attributes to scale, there is a wonderful amulet known as Astramentis. So this gives us an absolute massive amount of all attributes. However, it is obscenely expensive. So if you want to get one with something like this, is like sitting at over a mirror. If you are giga rich for some reason, see if you can fit in an Astramentis. Just make sure that your resistances are capped somehow. But yeah, Astramentis really just busted, but extremely expensive. Let's hop into a map and see how the build is performing. We'll go Burial Bog. Nice change is that you can now see the biome of maps that you're running. So one thing you can do is on your Atlas passive, if you're running a swamp or water biome, you can swap into local knowledge, which gives you a 40% increased chance to drop basic currency. And like I said, it's feeling more and more like we are just an Ice Strike build at this point. You'll see when we do a breach, then we really do start using the flicker a bit more, especially on bosses as well. Then we are using the flicker, but it's like it's really morphed into an Ice Strike feat Flicker Strike build. So I don't know if I should change the name or keep it as is. Let's do this breach. For people saying they are struggling with survivability, even on the Chaos Inoculation version, make sure that your resistances are capped. Make sure that you have a decent amount of evasion rating. Make sure that your Chaos Res, not your Chaos Res, make sure that your energy shield is decently high. I've explained all of this in the guide, but you should not feel like you are dying very often at all on this build, even doing extremely juiced content. I think, what was that? Divine Orb? Oh, Perfect Jewelers. Even better. One thing in the patch is that we now have checkpoints in maps. However, we have 2 checkpoints in maps, which is one at the start and one at the boss, which is not really solving the problem of what is happening right now, which is backtracking to kill this one boss that I missed. Hopefully it's better in other maps, but yeah, that's the build. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas on further scaling it, but it really just feels like going with HoWA attribute scaling, crit scaling is just like the obvious, most powerful way for now. If anything else comes out, I'll let you know, but yeah. That's going to be it for this video. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. I am going to be away from Sunday until next week Sunday. So if I go quiet, don't worry, I'm alive. I'm just like taking a break. Anyway, take care. Stay safe. See you in the next video. Check this out over on Mobalytics. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. And Patreon and Twitch and all that stuff. Thank you. Bye-bye.